Ole, ole,
Wow.
ole,
Oh,
ole.
settle
It's all in the
down.
approach.
If you're asked to take a pay cut and the organization that you're working for is not living up to expectations, kind of put yourself in his shoes.
The thing with LeBron is he's always looking for a way out. He's always looking for just an easier path.
There's something brewing here.
You know what, guys? I'll stop defending LeBron.
Yeah.
It's more impressive of Potgieter nowadays because a 19-year-old in 1930, that's the equivalent of a 35-year-old. 20-year-old today is the equivalent of like a 12-year-old in 1911.
Yeah, the 12-year-olds were working in the mines and bringing home the bacon, literally.
Ilia Topuria, he's beaten 3 straight legends, Volk, Max Holloway, and Charles Oliveira. He had this really interesting quote after.
Are you in a physical and mental level that you feel indestructible?
No, a ver, invencible no me siento, obviamente, por eso pongo muchísimo esfuerzo porque no soy...
Mike, did you get all that?
Translate, please.
LeBron has selected or opted in to his $52.6 million player option for next season for the NBA, for the Lakers. This story has gotten kind of a lot of buzz and news surrounding it, not just because of him opting in, but also some of the comments that his agent, Rich Paul, has made, including this one that we see right here. He said, we understand the difficulty in winning now while prepping for the future. We do want to evaluate what's best for LeBron at this stage in his life and his career. So there's a couple of things that we can go into on this, but first I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on LeBron opting into this, kind of the max of his deal, because some people are calling it perhaps selfish. Maybe you should take a pay cut, especially with, the Lakers roster issues. Okay, I'm a little bit torn on this situation because he did take a little bit of a pay cut last year, right? And sort of the argument in favor of him would be, okay, he did take that little bit of a pay cut, and it seemed like he wasn't totally satisfied with everything that the Lakers did building around him to make a championship level roster. Obviously, getting Luka, great. However, they had some glaring issues that really came to light, especially in the playoffs, like defensively, not having a big man, which they still don't have, that they hope to get in free agency here. So, I mean, imagine if you're asked to take a pay cut and the organization that you're working for is not living up to kind of your expectations of what they would do and how they would manage that pay cuts. I mean, can you kind of put yourself in his shoes a little bit?
Yeah. I can see that from a normal employee standpoint or a normal, call it star of a team standpoint. But LeBron James has historically had his finger on the pulse and the finger on the button of being able to kind of make pseudo GM moves, or at least get his GMs to make moves that other stars and other players would not otherwise be able to do. So it's also, I get the sense that it's a lot of him kind of bucking responsibility when it fits for him and when it fits his, call it, feelings. Because look, LeBron, for you to all of a sudden say that you don't have pull or sway within the organization to have maybe avoided something along the lines of the AD trade or it's not as though they didn't contact you and talk to you about this, because you've been in conversations with him, with the Lakers and the GM and the front office on all the other trades. So
I don't know. I feel like we maybe as fans and on the outside overestimate the influence sometimes that some of these stars have within the front office. I know there's a ton of this conversation with Aaron Rodgers as well. And who knows how much that's actually true or not, because some of the comments that LeBron had said when AD was traded, you remember the one where a reporter asked him, hey, what do you think about this? And he kind of said, hey, I'm going to keep my mouth shut because my boy AD said what he wanted and he was shipped out the next week.
Right, but I think that was convenient for him to say that at that point in time, because he knew that it was the right thing to say in the moment. There's a difference between, while Aaron Rodgers is supreme in his position and in his Hall of Fame status in the NFL, one, that functions vastly differently in the organizations and how players are moved about. The NBA is a player-driven league. And if we're talking about one guy outside of Michael Jordan that has the sway to literally move the league in a certain direction, it is LeBron James. And he's shown it over the course of his 20+ year career. Sure. So that's why I say this is a vastly different scenario where, yes, there's a lot of truth in what you're saying, but it's LeBron. And for him to all of a sudden take this route where it's just I have no say in the matter, I don't think is genuine.
Okay. Yeah, sure. But what you're saying right there. So let me take what you're saying right there about him having kind of everyone sort of looks to him and he's sort of the example of who could make some of these moves or have any of this influence. He does have a lot of influence throughout the league. And one could argue that him taking the pay cut again sets precedent for other players to be expected to always do this. So then it could kind of diminish the player power that is so prominent in the NBA. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, we like personally that the NFL is not so player driven, but would this not set sort of a dangerous precedent or expectations for other players around the league?
Well, I think the precedent's already set. It's not unnatural to see an aging star or superstar having to take lower and lower pay toward the end of his career. I don't think it's as unnatural as it seems on the surface.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, there are other examples. For example, like Dirk Nowitzki, I think in his final couple of seasons or finally, he made like $5 million, which is essentially like the veteran Hall of Famer minimum. And he opted to take that, which is more team friendly. And it is something that we really admire about like some players like Tom Brady or even Patrick Mahomes, who seem to value giving more flexibility to the team in pursuit of championships and wins other than personal financial gain. Yeah. So it is kind of like, I don't want to bash on him too much. But it does kind of handcuff the Lakers a little bit, and he could open up a little bit more flexibility with them. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, he can complain about roster movement and all this kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, he's kind of cuffing the organization one arm behind their back in taking the more money so that they can't make the moves that he is suggesting, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like he's able to play both sides of the fence when it fits him. Yep, and that's what's so frustrating about this.
Okay. I know what you mean. Yeah. He does do a little bit of that, playing both sides of the fence. You know me on this show. Sometimes I like to be our LeBron defender. It's sort of my role.
Yeah.
His agent, Rich Paul, one of the most powerful agents in sports, said LeBron wants to compete for a championship. He knows the Lakers are building for the future. He understands that. But he values a realistic chance at winning it all. So we are very appreciative of the partnership we've had for 8 years with Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka, and consider the Lakers as a critical part of his career. Kind of sounds like they're hinting at wanting to be traded to a championship contender now.
Okay, the thing with LeBron is he's always looking for a way out. He's always looking for just an easier path.
You know what, guys? I'll stop defending LeBron. Yeah. The moves that he makes and these things that come out, it just sort of repositions him into the GOAT of basketball / business, as opposed to the GOAT of basketball. Like, it's almost like he's trying to have a different path where he kind of flexes his power in different ways off the court as well. Just frustrating for me, because I feel like if he would just not pull all these moves and just head down and care about what's exactly on the basketball court, then we wouldn't be having these conversations, and we would be probably, guys in our generation would be much more apt to consider him the GOAT.
Yeah. I get the sense that he sees Luka coming in, just entering the prime of his NBA career and getting to the Lakers, which is the cream of the crop outside of the Boston Celtics. Like, I get the sense that he's looking at this and he sees the end of the tunnel on his career, and he's getting a little skittish here. It's kind of like, I don't know if you watched Mountainhead, the HBO movie.
Did watch it, yes.
Yeah, it's kind of when Steve Carell's character got leapfrogged in terms of
the wealth
and everything like that. I get the sense that there's something brewing here. Like, why does LeBron continue to do this? There always seems to be some other reason that generates a lot of these talking points and stories.
That is a great comparison right there with that movie. Also, side note, that movie, very, very interesting concept in the first hour. Really unraveled and got way too silly. Okay. And this is me coming from a guy. I went to film school, Scott. Oh, so did you. We know what a good story is.
Yeah.
All right. LeBron. Okay. Let's pivot to a sport that we actually don't talk about too much. And that's actually UFC. We've talked a little bit about it in some of our conversations about what sport is kind of the most mental, but we don't talk about so much on the show. But Ilia Topuria knocked out Charles Oliveira. I'm going to throw this up here. And he's been on what would be described as a historic run. He's beaten 3 straight legends, Volk, Max Holloway, and Charles Oliveira, with like legit knockouts here. And this was in the first round, pretty quickly into the fight. He had this really interesting quote after.
Are you in a physical and mental level that you feel indestructible?
No, a ver, invencible no me siento, obviamente, por eso pongo muchísimo esfuerzo, porque no soy precisamente invencible, ¿sabes? Como soy que soy vencible, por eso me entreno y me esfuerzo todos los días muchísimo, muchísimo. Y al final de todo, cuando pongo muchísimo trabajo, sé que he hecho todo lo que estaba en mis manos y que ya la victoria es mía. Es lo que yo siempre digo, ¿no? De que yo la victoria ya lo celebro cuando el campamento se acaba. Cuando yo ya doy el peso es como, ya soy ganador. Después dentro del octógono puede pasar cualquier cosa, pero nunca me quedaré con la duda de podía haber hecho más. Eso no vive dentro de mí, no pudiera vivir con eso. Y como esa sensación no está dentro de mí, pues yo ya me siento ganador.
Mike, did you get all that?
Translate, please.
You have to read the words. All right. Thoughts on it? I just wanted to say, I think that this is incredibly powerful, and I actually really, really like this mindset because this is more of a process-oriented mindset than an outcome-oriented mindset, because he has complete control of the training process, bar for some injury or whatever would happen. But you have way more control of how you train and prepare for something than what actually happens inside the octagon. Like we've seen the craziest things outside of your control can happen in those fights. What are your thoughts on this mentality?
Yeah, it's the mentality of like the journey is the reward, not so much the destination. And he's obviously looking at it from that perspective, and like all of the hard work that goes into getting to that point in time when he steps on the scale and then steps into the octagon a day or two later, is really where the hard work and the growth happens. Because like he's right in his statement right there. It's like anything can happen in the octagon. Like you could have the biggest, baddest man in the world step into the octagon, and if the other fighter just gets the perfectly timed, perfectly angled hit, and it could be just completely random, in a million times out of 1,000,001 times loses to the other person, like the big bad man could go down.
Yeah, because then you look at like Charles Oliveira on the other side of this. That's essentially what happens. He just got hit with the hit with the punch, like a perfectly placed, timed, powered punch, and he gets knocked down. It's like it's very, very hard to control how these things happen. There's also that one fight with Conor McGregor. I can't remember who it was against.
Aldo.
Where he knocked him out in like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
In the press conference leading up to, he called exactly the shot and everything. Prime Conor McGregor mentality is the most beautiful thing to watch and look back on. And there's something about the mentality it takes to be at the top of the game of fighting. It seems like such a delicate thing that takes so much to get there. And then you see these guys who get there and they get everything, and then they get out of it. Like Conor McGregor now is such a completely different person. Like, it's so interesting to see him step out of that and kind of go too far.
Yeah. I mean, well, people speaking of Conor McGregor, people are now talking about is Topuria's run here, like compared to Conor McGregor's, where he was the two-weight champion. And it is the mentality of this is such a delicate thing. That's what I want to ask you guys, like the fine line between confidence and cockiness, and in this sport in particular, because it's like there's so much on the line in fighting. Whereas like if you lose a basketball game, it's like, darn it, lost a basketball game. But if you lose a fight, like it feels like so much more of a drop. It's so much more personal, so much more of a primal thing, that like the confidence and cockiness aspect of it, I feel like is so delicate. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you lose a fight, it's almost as though your manhood, your dominance, your ability to like provide is put into question. It's a tough mental battle that I don't think a lot of other sports, if any, really have. I think football, rugby, because they're so physical, are the only ones that kind of get to that point. The other ones that you're speaking to, just they're games, right? They're kids' games that are just elevated to to big money status and everything like that in business. But when you're talking about fighting, that's just like basic instinct sort of scenario that you can get into. And if you lose that, there's something deeper, pride, ego. Yeah. Part of it, especially for maybe people like Conor, and stuff like that. When that's dashed, you have probably the biggest ego death you could possibly have of all time.
Yeah, I mean, that's like if I think compare it to football, like, okay, a lot of aspects in football, if you mess up, it's not going to be such a huge death to your ego. You're not going to feel like no longer a man. But there are certain situations where you do, and that is you make a tackle and you get absolutely trucked. That's my experience, perhaps, to get knocked out in a fight, because that is kind of so primal. It's just man on man, and he overpowered you, and now you're on the ground on the floor. And I've been on my back, just feeling absolutely horrible for about 3 seconds when that happens. And I can only imagine that's kind of the comparison the closest comparison within football.
You don't see guys in the UFC and like top fighters going and doing these ayahuasca retreats like Aaron Rodgers to get rid of their ego. They need that ego so bad because it's life and death. It's not like a fun game. It's like, let's see what happens if I don't have my ego.
Yeah, that's true. See, but then there's such a flip of the switch. Like after you lose, then it's just like such a letdown. I just think that's got to be the most disappointing loss in sports. I would imagine is losing those fights. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah,
it's gonna hurt the most.
Speaking to Mikey's earlier point, it's like when you're at the top, the pinnacle of the fighting world, it's such a short period of time because you know that there's going to be a younger dude who's just more nimble, more skilled, has the fire that has probably diminished in you after you got to the top. So it's like the green flash on the horizon. You get it. It's there for a moment. It's one of the most beautiful things you could see on this earth, but it's fleeting and it disappears immediately. So like that's what I feel like Connor was, that green flash.
That's actually why I admire Khabib a lot, because he decided to leave whilst at the top. And I wish that more athletes did that, because now the legend of him grows forever. People are always going to wonder, what if he fought a couple more years, but he went out on top, undefeated. And I wish more athletes did this. I kind of wish Aaron Rodgers did this. It feels like athletes overstay their welcome.
The story has yet to be written. He could. What if him and your love for Tomlin? What if they come through and end up getting to the Super Bowl and winning it?
My love for Tomlin. Oh yeah, let's go 9-8. Yeah. You guys want to go 9 winning record? Congrats, Pittsburgh. Congrats. All right, so that was quite impressive. I got something on another sport that we don't talk so much about, because we have now a blending, a fusing, a marriage of sport and entertainment. And that is with Brad Pitt's new movie, F1, appropriately titled, literally just titled F1, the movie. Okay. And I've got here this tweet with a lot of different facts about the movie and kind of how the film production collaborated with F1. Like F1 was totally in cahoots with this production. And it's interesting because Formula One also had the documentary series on Netflix for the last few years, Drive to Survive, which was completely a strategy to increase popularity of F1, specifically in the United States, which has been incredibly successful in doing. How many people do you know that like watch that documentary series, never having watched F1 before, and then I was like, I'm so interested in F1. And this is now taking it to another level, because this is a mainstream movie with one of the biggest movie stars in the world, who's essentially shining a spotlight on this sport, which could be described as a niche sport, especially in some circles, especially in some countries. What are your thoughts on this? It's essentially just a big commercial for this sport to get more people interested in it. Thoughts?
Great marketing move. Obviously build off the success, get one of the biggest names in Hollywood to play in it, especially because he's an aging actor. There's some sort of like parallel in the story. I assume he's an aging driver, so on and so forth. So, there is intrigue, and it looks great. It looks beautiful. It looks very real. I've always kind of been a fan of the racing movies. So like Senna, Rush with Chris Hemsworth, and then Talladega Nights. So like all of these racing movies, all of these racing movies are like awesome, and I love them just because of what they bring to life on the big screen. It gets a little long in the tooth though when you've had many seasons of Drive to Survive. I think this is probably a few years too late. I think it's already reached over top the crest of that wave of like fandom in the United States. I think people are still going to go in droves to see it, but it all comes down to the story. How do you tell the story? The archetypal story here of the old man coming back, dusting off his steering wheel and getting back out there.
Yeah, dust off my steering wheel.
Like Doc Hudson in the movie Cars, if you will.
Precisely.
One of the best racing movies of all time.
Well, here's the thing about F1. Like you said, it got a little long on the tooth and they were doing multiple seasons of it. And I think the first couple seasons of it especially were really, really effective. But then it got highly, highly criticized because the filmmakers of the doc series were manipulating reality so much to where they were trying to kind of create these archetypal stories that resonate with all sorts of human beings. And like, even if you're not an F1 fan, you're going to enjoy that. They got highly criticized for that because sometimes in an F1 season or any sports season, you're just not going to have those archetypal stories.
Right.
Whereas with a scripted movie right here, that they have complete control of the story and the emotional beats and everything, I kind of think that this is going to resonate with even more people and probably create more F1 fans because they know exactly what emotions they're tapping into with those story beats. And you're going to walk away from this 2 hours. I think it's going to be more effective than multiple seasons of the documentary series. What do you think of that? Look at us busting in our film school.
I agree with you. This is a more powerful tool,
Okay.
but I think it's ill-timed. I think that's why I keep saying is I think they showed their hand, and I think enough people were turned off by exactly what you were talking about to where like they may not even go see the movie. They may wait until it pops up on a VOD, something along those lines, maybe it'll stir up some intrigue and whatnot. But at the same time, the repetitive nature of the series and seasons of the series, it seemed like they were trying to engineer the magic of the first 2, 3, maybe 4 seasons. This should have been a few years earlier.
Okay. Yeah. Fair point right here. Are you guys going to go see it?
Of course.
Go. I don't really have
Brad Pitt
time.
on a big screen.
I know. Guys, Brad Pitt, take your children. Take the baby.
Yeah, take the baby.
Okay. It's supposed to be the loudest movie of all time. So I think your baby's going to be fun. Put some earmuffs on him.
The last thing I want to do is introduce driving fast and getting my daughter excited about that because she would be the one to have a heavy foot.
Yeah, as that tends to happen. Okay, so we got that going. I do think it's very interesting to the blending and just such obvious strategy of these. Like it's this movie, however good it ends up being, and I've heard it's great. It's not coming from a pure place of story. And you know, you can always argue that about every movie. It's all about making money. But this is to increase popularity of F1.
Yeah,
so
it's too on the nose. Is Michael Bay producing us? Is he directing us?
No. Come on. Hey, show some respect.
I love Michael Bay, but he is a master at doing these product placements and all of that kind of stuff. So he would be the ideal guy to do something like this.
Michael Bay puts in the most egregious, egregiously obvious product placement shots within his movies. Just like Transformers fighting, and all of a sudden you have this beautiful shot of like a Dodge Charger, and the logo is in the best spot ever.
And then Mark Wahlberg cracks a beer and drinks it right there out of
Exactly.
nowhere.
Michael Bay movies are commercials. No, show some respect. This is Joseph Kosinski, okay, who directed Top Gun Maverick. All right, very good director. He knows how to handle these big machines and make.
Knows how to handle cockpits.
Yeah, cockpits. There you go. And big movie stars like Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. All right, we got a little golf. It's the summer. It's the season of golf, guys. I'm going to go golfing this week, actually.
Oh, nice.
And we have got a 20-year-old who has won the 2025 Rocket Classic, and now he is a member of an exclusive club. There's been, I think, Scott, a handful of teenagers that have won a PGA. Very few. But a 20-year-old, he's one of the youngest of all time. Give me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, since 1983, there were a number of teenagers, like we're talking early 1900s, that were winning PGA tours at
here's the dates right here. Can you see that?
Oh yeah. There, exactly. Yeah. So a handful of dudes way back in the day, during even pre the first war. Geez, that's a long time ago. But yeah, this is crazy because since 83, I think this article is even saying that there have only been a handful of dudes, and there have only been a handful of young players. I think it's 6 under the age of 21 who have won PGA Tour events. And the way in which this guy did it, I am butchering his name.
Yeah,
Aldrich. I'll call him Aldrich.
It's Potgieter. If you want the German pronunciation.
Well, he's South African, so like that's what's throwing me off even.
Oh
even
yeah,
more.
well, there's some German influence on it.
But it was awesome. I don't know if you caught any of it, but it was a 3-way 5-hole back and forth between 3 dudes, and it was hilarious because they were each of a different decade, right? So one was a 40-year-old, one was a 30-year-old, and the other was this 20-year-old, and they were all going back and forth. And obviously, looks like youth won out.
Score one for the youth. It's actually a really cool thing about golf that you can have 3 different decades.
Oh yeah,
players competing like really at the highest level right there, like the longevity and lifespan of a golfer. It is one of the beautiful things about, did you say golf is a lifelong game? Like we can play golf. We can play our poor version of golf until we're 85 years old,
Yeah.
It is. I do want to talk about though the ages of these guys. Okay, so we're looking 1931, 1923, 1931, and 1911. Okay, and all these guys were 19 years old or 18 years old. I kind of want to argue that it's more impressive of Potgieter nowadays because a 19-year-old in 1930, that's the equivalent of a 35-year-old.
Yeah,
okay?
fair.
We have financial inflation. We also have age inflation.
Oh,
where
yeah.
a 20-year-old today is the equivalent of like a 12-year-old in 1911. So one could argue that this is way more impressive than all those guys. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The 12-year-olds were working in the mines and smoking and bringing home the bacon, literally, dude. Like, I would agree with you there. I think one of the coolest things about this win for this guy is that, yes, there have been flashes in the pan, and you could have any given weekend you can come out and win, especially guys on the tour. But what's really cool is just being one of those names on a very, very short list of young players to have won their first PGA Tour event. Tiger being one of those guys, Phil Mickelson being one of those guys, just to be able to like point to that list and you're like, I did that alongside literally the GOAT, the second GOAT.
Yeah. What do you think with something like this? Is this the start of a really impressive career that we're going to be following, or is this a one-off flash in the pan? It's so hard to tell with these sports.
Yeah, I mean, there are so few of these guys on that list that I was talking to,
I know.
5 or 6 dudes, and Jordan Spieth being one of them, where you were like, oh, whoa, he won I think he won even younger at 19 something change.
19 years old, 11 months. Sorry, I took it down. Yeah, 19 years. John Deere Classic.
Yeah. So like you look at that and everybody had their eyes set on him because, wow, you're winning at that age. Like the chances of you potentially chasing Jack or Tiger and or Jack is much higher. So, you know, the question still remains because you look at Jordan's career and over the past decade, it's really been rocky. But you know, at the end of the day, I think being part of this grouping gives you some hope and probably juices him to talk about being at the peak and pinnacle. Like he's probably living on cloud 9 right now.
Yeah. 20 years old, haven't won that. But like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have the best career of all time. It's only up from here.
Yeah.
But
caveat, a lot of the good players were not playing in this tournament. So it's kind of like, would he have won had Scotty been in the race or, you know, any of those other dudes? It doesn't matter. Win's a win.
Take away from our boy Aldrich.
Yeah. I know.
Okay. All right. So there we have it. A little bit of golf. We've also got a little bit of football. We call it.
You guys talking football?
Sorry, Mike, tricked you. It's soccer. Got you back in. Son of a. Look at no. This is actually you're actually gonna really like this. It's actually really cool. Okay, so the U.S. men's national team, which has just been disappointing for years and years and years. The United States men's soccer is in an abysmal state. However, they did win against Costa Rica in the quarterfinal here of the Gold Cup. They did have to go to PKs to win. Now, I'm just throwing this up. Maybe in America, a lot of people argue, soccer, a little bit boring to watch sometimes. However, this is incredibly exciting to watch. Let's watch this 60 seconds, okay? A condensed PK shootout.
That's right down the middle from Martin. And he gets it in off the...
The saves are crazy.
Buries it. Saved! It looked like it was going to be saved. He was right there. And he missed it.
Dude, can't go high.
And again, fingertips and freeze.
Good strategy.
That's the best strategy.
Hezzy.
Yeah.
Right down the middle.
That was great.
That was your big plan?
That's the plan.
Saved!
That's clap.
Saved!
All right, let's put the towel away.
Yes!
So the United States.
Ole.
It's all in the approach. Changing up your tempo of the approach is the most effective thing. I should coach soccer.
Well, that little hesitation move there.
Yeah,
that
the
was-
little hesitation, changing your rhythm on the approach is the most effective.
Yes, the approaches are great, but I think what really came through was the goalkeeping here. And I think Matt Freese had ice in his veins blocking that thing. The one that was straight on, the fact that he didn't choose a side, which is just the natural way to go about blocking those things because you assume you're going for a corner or an edge.
Right.
Like that was a crazy moment where they both went straight on. That doesn't happen often.
That's what I was going to say. That I think is perhaps the most satisfying save from the goalie's perspective and the most frustrating miss from the shooter's perspective, because that's a ballsy move on both of their parts. As a keeper, if you just stand right in the middle there and you don't, and they end up going to a side, you're going to look pretty stupid. Shooter just now looks pretty stupid, just going right down the middle. So that's pretty ballsy on his part right there.
But I have to say, flowers to Freese, but not going to root for him necessarily because he's a Harvard guy.
Oh gosh, Mikey, these Harvard Yale guys. Oh, we just talk about a boat race. I just
Boat race.
Oh, I don't know. Harvard Yale. No, you guys, we love you. We love you guys. This is my proposal to soccer. Okay, to increase the interest in the United States. We add a PK shootout to the end of each half. So 2 PK shootouts in every soccer game, okay? And you get a chance. I don't know what exactly the scoring would be. They don't count as full goals. Maybe you get a half point or a third of a point in the end of the half. But you add a PK shootout at the end of each half. How exciting would that be? With the opportunity,
That's a great idea.
You're down 3-1. All of a sudden, you do this the PK shootout at the end of the first half. It's tied now going into halftime. What do you?
That's great idea.
Did I just save soccer?
It's kind of like if in basketball before the end of the half, like and then at the end of the game they do a free throw shootout. Kind of similar.
Yeah, it's like really, except PKs are way more fun to watch.
Yeah, true. We need to write to the MLS. I don't think we're going to change international soccer in that direction, but maybe we got a chance with the MLS. We could just, hey, Messi, think about it.
Yeah, these poor countries outside the United States that think they have a great sport in soccer and they don't understand about it.
You know what would also be great though too for American. I know this is CONCACAF, and so it's the Western Hemisphere with I think one invitation. I think Saudi Arabia is one invitation from one of the international teams.
Yeah.
Don't know how they got it. Talking about increasing the popularity, right, in the United States.
Right.
How about when we're in major tournaments like the CONCACAF, we have our full roster playing for the United States team. We didn't have Blisick, who's the dude. I don't understand the mechanics of soccer and why that happens so frequently, as some guys are playing for their national team and others aren't. And it's just that's part of the reason why I don't think Americans are solely focused and bought in, because there's such confusion as to wait a minute, you're on this team, but you're not playing and you're not even there. And what does that even mean?
I think the U.S. women's national team does a way better job with their management and just the overall approach and everything that they do, because women's soccer in the United States is pretty successful and pretty popular, especially compared to the men's. And it's also an interesting conversation about I don't know if we talked about this on this podcast, or why soccer is not as popular in the United States and why we are not as good. Think about that. We're going to PKs with a tiny country, Costa Rica. It's the United States. We have all of these athletes and talent to draw from. I don't know what the status, how many more people, how much larger our population is than a country like Costa Rica. But the fact that we struggle so much in this sport, it's one of the few team sports, at least on the men's side, that the United States struggles with in international competition. And it's just, what do you think? Do you think we're ever gonna be a soccer powerhouse?
I think there would have to be a massive shift in the major sports that are already captured in America. So MLB, NBA, and NFL. I mean, it would have to be that the NFL just completely changes to flag football or something like that, where it starts losing its allure, and some of the athletes that would be prime for a football team, especially in the skill positions, would go and play something like soccer. I get the sense that it's just a very American to have an aversion to anything that's very international or very European.
Yes.
And that's, I think, why it began. We wanted to innovate. We wanted to change what we broke away from and make it better. And that's what we did. And that's why we're focused on those 3 other sports.
Our version of soccer goes back to the Revolutionary War, 1776. Okay. And that's why we're bad at soccer. Okay. We choose to be, because we don't really care about it that much.
Yeah.
No, but it is interesting to watch. And I would like them to implement my PK system for more excitement and condensed excitement. All right.
MLS.
There you go. Hey, MLS, check it out. Last thing, this is we used to talk about this guy on the pod like every week, okay? Almost every week during college football season. And that is because he's such a big fan of one of our favorite teams, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. However, our boy Shane Gillis is back in the sporting news because he is going to be hosting the ESPYs this year. July 16th, Shane Gillis will be hosting the ESPYs. Thoughts on this, guys, and also thoughts in general on kind of these sport award shows.
I think they're great. They're so much better than like the Oscars or movie award show, actor award shows.
Right.
Sport award shows are so much better and it's funnier, and the people can take the jokes. And getting a guy like Shane Gillis, who actually played football, in college, be it a small window, but he did enough to be able to tap into that humor and kind of hold his own. It's going to add another layer of just very fun to watch. I'm excited.
I think that's it's a great point with like the award shows with athletes definitely being able to take jokes way more. Like remember when Ricky Gervais did the Golden Globes a few years ago, and funniest award show performance of all time. And they cut to all of the actors and actresses in the audience, and they were all so offended at every single thing. It was just roast them. I think the athletes are gonna. I think Shane Gillis is probably gonna cut pretty deep on some of these guys, and it's gonna be hilarious. But I think a lot of them are gonna be able to roll with it. Scott, what's your thoughts?
Oh yeah. This is going to be prime. Usually I'm not like the biggest fan of award shows anyway, but I would say sports award shows make the most sense because they're all merit based versus like, the subjectivity of like, oh, you acted so well. Great job.
You acted so well.
So it's just, it's one of those things where I love the story of sport because it actually comes through. You can see people persevering over like things like that. And then adding the humor element of Shane because he comes from the athlete mindset. Dude, this is going to be prime.
It is going to be prime. And Shane Gillis, we can't disrespect Shane Gillis's football career. He was a great high school football player. And he did go to Army, West Point, Division I. He quit very, very soon, very quickly, he said. And then he ended up playing at Emory. Never really got the burn, though, did he? But he was kind of that guy.
I thought it was Elon.
Or Elon, excuse me. Sorry, Elon.
What? I don't know which, actually.
No, I think you're right. I think it's Elon, which is in North Carolina, I believe. And so he was there. And he kind of the perfect role on a football team, college football team, to become a comedian. Like a backup offensive lineman, man. Yeah. Just like kind of the perfect mold, the perfect soup and potion. Be like, you're gonna be really, really funny because you don't see the field, and your whole interaction with football is just joking around with the guys. Yeah, and that's the value that you add.
I do love that about offensive linemen is that they develop character so early, and they're able to just fight through it because let's face it, like that's just you got to find a way in the world when.
Say it, Scott. Stop dancing around it. You want to say it? You want to say it? Your father was an offensive lineman. You want to say it?
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't say he's the funniest guy in the world, which is kind of bucking my argument.
He was pretty funny when we did our podcast. You had me off it. Offensive linemen, perhaps they're not the most physically appealing at certain points in their life, okay? And they have to find other ways to win in the marketplace, okay? We'll say it this way. All right, right? We'll say it this way. That's why these skills are developed.
Economics.
Okay, look, I didn't go to Harvard or Yale. So I went to college, okay? All right. Last thing I wanted to talk about, just because it kind of comes back into play, we were talking about last week with all the torn Achilles that were happening. And we were talking so much about like sports specialization and how sports have really changed, especially youth sports and high school sports in these last 20 years. This guy's a great tweet. High school sports were fun 20 years ago. You could play multiple sports, enjoy your summers, date, and have a job. Nowadays, it's a full-time job for everyone in the family. Travel plus summer league plus training and workouts. Make sports fun again. Now, he's kind of making a little bit of a joke here, but I think that there's a lot of credibility to this, and this kind of circles back to that conversation we were having about just the hyper-specialization of a young player, going all in on one sport and then dropping all other sports and all other movements that you would develop playing some of these sports. And then we think it's probably leading to some of these increase in injuries. Thoughts on this? Do you agree that it is not as fun as it was?
Oh yeah, dude. One thing I do have to say though is I think we all benefited from the fact that we focused on football, which has its own limitations, right? The only pipeline to college and to the professionals is high school, college, boom, NFL.
Yeah.
Whereas like all these other sports have travel leagues and they're spanning months and months and months, if not the full year. And there's just variations, different clubs, all that kind of stuff. So it's more confusing. And if you don't enter into it, you miss out. But with football, like we got the benefit of just focusing on some camps, playing in our high school year, and then this. But overall, this guy's right. Like something has changed. It's sad to see sports go the way of like general economics and the market, as we're talking to right here. Like everything seems to be going in this direction where hyper specialization, go to college, focus on this, only go do that, versus like being dynamic.
Yes, you got to be dynamic in your life. You got to be anti-fragile, okay? And the way you do that is you're doing a lot of stuff, okay? And becoming fragile as athletes. Maybe these athletes are really, really dominating at their sports, but there is a fragility that develops from not having more variety in your movements, and also, and not even just the physical aspect of it, but we were just talking about with Shane Gillis in the locker room, and like also the social aspect of it. You develop a lot of different things being on different teams, playing with different types of athletes and different types of personalities. So there's a lot of stuff. Even though for us, in high school, well, I wasn't playing varsity basketball. I was playing JV2 basketball, but I was still playing basketball in the winter. And it was good for my development. And then I was a hurdler in track. So short stint on varsity, and then I got bumped down to
Oh man. Well, okay, going back to this, and we got to touch on it because Wimbledon just started today. We had Medvedev go down. He lost at Roland Garros first round, and then this happens again here in Wimbledon. Big upset. But talking about the dynamic nature of athletes, and we just had Roger Federer retire, so on and so forth. But he was one guy who always talked about playing all sports growing up. And he didn't really focus on tennis until much later in his career. I think it was like upper teens. Look at what he's able to do. And obviously there's an argument against it where you look at Tiger Woods and how he focused and where he got to. So cuts both ways. But at the same time, I think there's more success to be had, more experience to be gained by going the route of playing more and being dynamic in that sense. And Roger Federer is one of those.
It's also interesting because like he's the best tennis player, one of the top 2 best tennis players we've ever had. And it's kind of, I believe, more rare in the tennis world and some of these to not specialize very, very early. You're seeing some of these athletes that are like, okay, age 6, you are a tennis player. Yeah. We will spend our entire year doing. How was it with your mom, dude? Because she was a national champion tennis player in college. Do you know what her sporting situation was like growing up? Did she specialize in tennis really, really early?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Southern California, it's more a part of the culture, and where she grew up, especially in the LA area, it was just like that was part of life. That's like what you did. There's obviously surf culture here, there's skateboarding culture there. So like she just grew up playing, and my grandma played a lot as well with a bunch of her friends. So she started liking to play, and then entered into a couple local tournaments and everything, and then you just started building up from there. She played other sports, but it was just like the most fun for her. She's a very she was built for individual sports. Let's just put it that way. Okay. And I think some people are, right? Like
some people are.
Like that's just the way your mind works and functions. And like that's why I always say, hey, it's great to get the experience of getting out of a solo sport so that you can get team aspect things.
Yeah, and that is great. But it's also great for team sport players or athletes to dabble into sports that are more individual. So like I liked track for that reason, because you had kind of the camaraderie and everything, and you would hang out with people at track practice and the track mates and stuff. But when it came down to it, it was an individual sport. You get a little bit of a different dynamic socially than when you're on a football team or on a basketball team. So I do think it's good to have kind of all of that. So
biggest waste of time, track meets.
You're talking to a track family, Scott. Okay?
I know, but I'm saying like when you have one of the later events,
you're running.
You're just like,
what's the latest event? The track meet structure. We should have it memorized. Like the
4x4 relay is the last event.
4x4. You're just like, I only have the 4x4, and it's a Tuesday night, and I've got a biology test tomorrow morning, and I haven't studied.
9:27 p.m. What are we doing?
Nothing harder than high school. There's nothing harder than high school in America, okay? In sports, in the school, we made it out. We made it out. And you know what? Europeans, you might be better than us at soccer, but that's something we have over you. We know how to grind in our high school years. All right, there we have it. We covered a lot of good sports today, guys. We're like, how diverse are we?
So versatile. We're like a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, Swiss Army knife. No, you good, Scott? You don't like my diversity?
No, I think we're all pretty Italian on this thing, on this show.
Diversity of thought and diversity of sports, Scott. Get your mind out of the gutter. All right. So there we have it. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you on the next one.